Here's the thing about buying a home in the greater Washington, D.C. area. What looks like a great deal can turn into your worst money mistake faster than you can say, settlement day. Trust me, I've seen too many buyers get stuck with homes that seem perfect until surprise costs hit them hard. So in this video, I'm breaking down 7 types of homes you should avoid in the D.C. metro area. This info could save you from making a huge mistake. Let's get into it. Alright, let's start with flipped homes that only have cosmetic fixes. First, a wild fact, Petworth ranked #1 in the country for home flipping profits in 2013. Flippers there made about $312,000 on each flip. Brooklyn was third, and the average gains was $271,900. Those are crazy numbers, right? But here's the catch. Those big profits don't come from doing great work. They come from cutting corners while making everything look perfect on the outside. Places like Petworth, Brooklyn, and Deanwood are full of flipped homes, and that should be your first warning sign. If a house looks like it belongs on HGTV with fresh paint, shiny fixtures, and trendy subway tiles, you need to look closer. The problem isn't what you see, it's what's hiding underneath all that nice packaging. And if you think this is bad, when I show you flood-prone areas later, you'll see how the whole neighborhoods can flood with sewage. It's way worse than any renovation nightmare you can imagine. I'll get to that soon. Now, home inspectors say flipped houses often have serious foundation problems that can cost over $10,000 to fix. HVAC systems are sometimes installed wrong and need $5,000 to $15,000 to replace. Plumbing issues get painted over instead of being fixed, leaving hidden leaks and rotten pipes. Here's the deal. Buyers often find $20,000 or more in surprise repairs in their first year. Things like shower floors that leak from day one, new plumbing that breaks right away, and electrical systems that flicker or fail because the flipper cares more about looks than quality. And the worst part is that you usually don't find out until after you move in and it's too late. That beautiful kitchen renovation isn't so great when water starts leaking through the ceiling because someone didn't waterproof the bathroom above. Now, those flipped house problems aren't even the worst. Next, I'll show you homes with electrical systems so unsafe that insurance companies won't cover them. But first, if you want to survive this tough DC market without losing big money, hit that subscribe button now. I'll share tips every week on which neighborhoods are about to blow up in value and the inspection red flags that could save you from disaster. In a market this pricey, missing one video could cost you tens of thousands. Don't miss out. Now, let's talk about something even worse for your wallet. Older homes with systems that are ticking time bombs. These are houses built between the 1940s and the 1960s in places like Northwest DC, Arlington, and Bethesda. Here's what most people don't know. Many of these charming old homes still have galvanized steel pipes. These pipes rust and build up inside, causing low water pressure, leaks, and sometimes total failure. And when I say total failure, I mean waking up to burst pipes, flooding your basement, and costing thousands in emergency repairs. But later, I'll show you how some HOAs in this area actually have the legal power to foreclose on your home just for missing small fees. That makes electrical problems look like pocket change. I'll get to it in a few minutes. Now it gets worse. The electrical systems in these homes can really be dangerous. Knob and tube wiring, common before the 1940s, and doesn't have proper grounding, and many insurance companies will refuse to cover a home that still uses it. Then there's aluminum wiring from the 1960s, which has a high fire risk and typically costs between $8,000 and $15,000 to replace. Let me break down the costs. Completely updating electrical systems can run between $8,000 and $15,000. Replacing galvanized pipes can cost $5,000 to $15,000. And upgrading electrical panels runs from $1,300 to $3,000. These aren't small repairs. These are major fixes that can drain your savings fast. The crazy part is sellers often price these homes like they're move-in ready because they look fine on the outside. But inside, the plumbing and electrical systems are old and ready to fail at the worst time. But if you think electrical fires and burst pipes are bad, let me tell you about noise pollution that can make your dream home impossible to live in. Here's something that might surprise you. Research from Northern Virginia shows that for every additional decibel, property values drop by 0.15%. Homes located within about 750 feet of railroad tracks typically sell for 5 to 7% less than similar homes further away. And they often stay on the market longer because fewer buyers want to deal with the noise. We're talking about houses near I-495, the Capital Beltway, I-395, or Amtrak and VRE train lines. The noise from these corridors isn't something you just get used to. It affects your quality of life, your sleep, and can even contribute to stress and health issues. But noise isn't the only issue. Homes with high noise levels also tend to appreciate more slowly than quieter homes. So not only do you have to deal with the daily hassle of traffic or train noise, but your home won't grow in value as quickly as others in calmer neighborhoods. When it's time to sell, you'll face the same problems that made the home cheaper to buy. Finding buyers willing to put up with the noise. That discount you got will likely be the same one you have to offer when selling. But noise pollution is nothing compared to what I'm about to show you next. Homes that can literally flood with sewage and cost you everything. Here's something worth knowing about flood risk in Wards 7 and 8. And while it matters for your wallet, over 90% of all single-family homes in Wards 7 and 8 lie within 500-year floodplain, and nearly 99% sit in the 100-year floodplain. That's wild when you think about it. These high exposures aren't limited to Southeast DC. They extend into parts of Alexandria and Prince George's County along the Potomac and Anacostia rivers. And speaking of costs that can wreck your budget, wait until I break down the real price of those homes way out in the suburbs. The commute costs alone will blow your mind and make flood insurance look cheap. More on that soon. Now, here's the thing. FEMA's maps don't capture all risks. Poor storm drainage and heavier downpours means flooding can, and does, happen well outside of those shaded zones. On the FEMA's Risk Rating 2.0, DC's average annual flood insurance premium for a single-family home is around $440. Mandatory coverage applies to any home with a federally black mortgage and a high-risk zone, but premiums vary by individual property risk, not just by zone. Since October 2021, the NFIP rates have begun reflecting factors like flood frequency, building characteristics, and distance to water, with an annual increase capped at 18% until each policy reaches its full risk-based rate. DC faces 3 types of flooding: riverine from Anacostia and Potomac, coastal storm surge, and pluvial, that's heavy rain. Climate change is set to intensify all 3, so buying in areas means betting against nature. And flood damage goes far beyond cleanup. You're looking into mold remediation, foundation repairs, and ruined belongings in basements or low-lying storage areas. The emotional and financial toll of repeated floods can be devastating. But hey, there's some good news after all of this bad stuff. And soon, I'll tell you what homes to buy in the DC area so you'll know what is exactly a smart choice. Trust me, you'll want to hear this. But before we get there, let's take a look at HOA fees and assessments that can literally steal your home equity. Now here's where things get wild. Montgomery and Prince George's counties have some crazy HOA problems that should worry any homeowner. Some HOAs actually have the legal power to foreclose on homes if dues or fines aren't paid. There are cases where homes were sold at HOA foreclosure auctions for tiny amounts after owners missed relatively small fees. Legal fights with HOAs can cost homeowners tens of thousands in attorney's fees. Meanwhile, the HOA spends community money on these battles too. But the money problems are just a start. Many HOAs have strict rules that make owning a home feel like you don't really own it. Some ban street parking, even when garages are too small for regular cars. Others set trash pickup times that don't work for families with busy schedules. What drives me nuts about bad HOAs is the constant frustration and surprise costs. Poor management, surprise fees, and unhelpful property managers turn what should be your peaceful home into a never-ending headache. In Maryland, HOAs have what's called super lien. That's a status for up to 4 months of unpaid assessments, or $1,200, whichever is less. This means they can foreclose and wipe out your mortgage if you fall behind on dues. If your HOA fines you for having the wrong mailbox color or threatens foreclosure because your grass is a little too tall, you'll soon see that monthly dues are the least of your worries. But HOA troubles are simple compared to what's hiding underground in thousands of homes across the DC suburbs. This one's a big deal in Fairfax, Loudoun, and Stafford counties, where many homes have private septic systems that need special inspections and regular upkeep. Here's what most people don't realize. Lots of home inspectors skip the detailed checks for septic systems because they're underground and need special knowledge. That means buyers often find costly problems after closing. when it's too late to ask for repairs or back out. Septic tanks need pumping every 3 to 5 years. That's cost between $250 to $700 per service. Regular inspections run $150 to $450 for maintenance, or $300 to $650 for a real estate transaction. Repairs usually cost $628 to $3,035, depending on parts and labor. But here's the expensive part. Replacing a whole system can run from $3,500 to $20,000. And complex engineered systems may exceed $20,000. So when septic systems fail, sewage can back up into your home, causing serious health risks and cleanup bills that can easily hit tens of thousands. Watch out for signs like wet, soggy spots over the drain fields, strong odors, unusually green grass. By the time you notice these signs, you're already facing major repairs or a full replacement. Septic systems don't fail on a schedule. They break down at the worst times, leaving you with a house full of problems and a huge repair bill you weren't ready for. And if you think a $20,000 replacement system is expensive, let me show you now what the hidden costs of those affordable, far-out suburbs do to your wallet and your life. Now, let me tell you about what I call commute killers. Homes in places like Manassas and Waldorf that look like good deals until you face the brutal commute. Here's a fact. The DC area has the longest average commute among the nation's 50 largest metro regions, 33.4 minutes just one way. But that's just a part of the story. Drivers here spend about 6 hours and 35 minutes stuck in congestion every weekday, which adds up to roughly 71 days a year just sitting in traffic. Most people don't think about the real costs. Commuters from Charles County, Maryland, lose about $14,000 a year in opportunity costs alone before you even factor in gas, maintenance, parking, and wear and tear. When you add those expenses and lost time, any savings from cheaper housing vanish faster than your patience in the Beltway traffic. But it's not just the money. Long commutes take away time with your family, raise stress, limit job opportunities, and hurt your physical and mental health. Here's what usually happens. Buyers get excited about affording a bigger house or more land in these far suburbs. But after 6 months of leaving at 6 in the morning and getting home at 7 at night, they realize it's not worth it. The worst part is that when it's time to sell, you'll face the same problem, finding buyers willing to accept an awful commute. Homes in these distant areas usually stay on the market longer and sell for less because savvy buyers know the real cost of being far from DC. Now that I've warned you about all the houses you should avoid, let's switch to things and talk about ones you actually should be looking at in the DC area. These are the kinds of homes that will protect your money and help you feel confident about your purchase. Look for newer homes that have been built in the last 15 years. Check out planned communities in Ashburn like Belmont Country Club or Brambleton, or explore Gainesville, Lake Manassas, and Piedmont neighborhood. Don't forget about Clarksburg Village. These neighborhoods have modern systems that work, useful HOA amenities, and the kind of appeal that helps your home's value grow. You won't have to worry about old pipes or bad electrical work here. You can also go for older homes that have been fully updated. This is where you get the best of both worlds. Think about historic row homes in Capitol Hill that have been completely redone, or those beautiful detached colonials in Arlington's Lyon Village, and the classic 1920 Tudors in Chevy Chase. The trick is to find homes where the owner already replaced the plumbing, electrical, and heating and cooling systems, but kept all of the original charm that makes DC homes special. Another smart choice is buying in neighborhoods with a long history of strong sales. Places like Bethesda's Edgemoor, McLean's Langley Oaks, and Alexandria's Old Town are great examples. These spots have been popular for decades with high walkability and steady demands from buyers. That means when you decide to sell, your home will have no trouble attracting buyers. Pay attention to HOA rules too. Look at communities like Reston, especially North Point and Lake Ann, or well-planned neighborhoods in Rockville like Falls Grove. These places have rules that make sense, budgets that are healthy, and amenities that add real value without feeling controlling. Finally, think about commute time and transit access. This is a big deal for both your daily life and the value of your home. Look at Silver Spring near the Red Line Metro, Vienna with Orange Line access, and Falls Church City. You get a suburban feel with quick metro connections or good road access into DC. You won't spend hours in traffic, and buyers in the future will appreciate that. So yeah, pick homes where the big problems are already fixed, in neighborhoods that have stayed strong over time, and in locations that make life easier. Spending a little more in the beginning can save you a lot of stress and money later. All right, that's a wrap on these horror stories and the homes you should actually buy. Here's the bottom line. When you're house hunting in the greater Washington, D.C. area, what looks good on the surface often has expensive problems underneath that can turn your dream home into a total financial nightmare. My honest advice? Don't buy those nightmare homes and focus on the quality properties that will actually build your wealth. This market is way too expensive to learn those lessons the hard way. If you want to buy smart in the DC area and avoid trouble homes, I'm your guy. Reach out to me at ryan@coalitionpg.com and I'll show you only the real gems. Trust me, I know this market inside and out and I've helped hundreds of clients. And before you go, check out my next video linked right here. I dive deep into the real cost of living in Washington, D.C. in 2025. If you're buying a home this year, it's a must watch. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.